Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And my name is Kate Hateva. I'm a founder of Career Pathway Institute. We are nonprofit organizations that helps internationals to build their career here in the US. And let me give a shout out to my team who is behind the scene. Hi everyone. And if you're interested to join our community, please check the links below description of this video. And we are growing the number of in-person events here in the Bay Area. So be sure that you subscribe to our social media and please join us live for in-person events. And if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, also please let me know. I will be happy to share our resources. And knowing how frustrating and difficult it can be to find a job here in the US, we decided to create a series of interviews with experts in the industry who can give us valuable piece of advice and who can guide us through this process of getting the first job here in the US or get a promotion. And today we have a very interesting topic to discuss, and this topic called Restart Your Career in the US with an Education. And we wanted to add with free or almost free resources, but Anya convinced us not to do that. And we will later ask her why. So let me introduce my guest. Her name is Anya Ilkys, and she's a college admission and financial aid coach and a professional member of the Higher Education Consultants Association. Anya helps students discover their strengths while strategically positioning them for a successful college enrollment journey. And through her work at Northeastern University and Merrimack College, she has been able to leave a lasting impact in areas of student enrollment, financial literacy, and global education. So thank you, Anya, so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your knowledge. And let's get started. Could you please introduce yourself and what are you doing?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Kate. I'm really happy to be here. So, as you mentioned, I am a college admissions and financial aid advisor. I work primarily with students grades 9 through 12, and in younger grades, I help them through their high school journey. And starting with 11th grade, I help them on the college admissions process. I work with parents on the financial aid side of things, and with students, I take them A through Z from, on their college journey. I came to the US in high school. And so my story goes very similarly to a lot of the students that I work with. Everything was going great until I figured out that I know nothing about college admission process. So this whole process for me personally was very difficult, and I stumbled through and I made a lot of mistakes and I wasted a lot of time. So when I graduated from college, my first job was in the admissions office at Northeastern University, is a R1 big research university in Boston. And I worked there for a few years, and I worked in financial aid because you really can't know the whole admissions process without knowing both sides, the money side and the education side. And so that's the bulk of my work. I do a lot of webinars, and I also do a lot of educational programming, such as this, to share my knowledge with the audience. I'm really passionate about education. I have 2 master's degrees. I'm working on a PhD. I'm in the graduate certificate at UC Irvine.
Wow.
I'm a forever student, and I really do think that education is the ultimate equalizer, where no matter how old you are, where you're from, how much money you have, the education puts everyone on the same level playing field. And in America, that is very important concept, which I think differs a lot in other countries. And I would say probably 85% of my families are international families, whether they're new immigrants, students and parents came recently and they just need help figuring out the process, or they, maybe the parents moved a long time ago. The kids maybe were even born here, but the parents didn't go to school here, so they can't
Yeah.
really support their children. And of course, in this process, I get to know the whole family very well. So parents come to me with questions, especially if they're new immigrants,
Mhm.
about, hey, you're working with my kid, but can you help me and figure out? Because it is very different than in a lot of countries. And the process is different, and the way you get education is very different. So, yeah, I am all about education.
So you mentioned that you have a lot of international families who are looking for your help. So maybe you can share some common mistakes internationals doing while applying for a college or
So since we're talking about adult education today,
yeah.
the some of the common mistakes that I see from parents when we start these conversations is, I always think of this process as like a three-step journey. You have your starting point, you have your path, and then you have your finish line. And what most people tend to do is they start in the middle. They want, so your starting point is like, what do you have on your resume? What do you have in terms of education? What skills do you have? The journey is what you need to do to get to the finish line. And this middle part is where a lot of people are very confused. They don't know where to start. They don't know, do I need to complete my education here? Can I use my degree that I got abroad in the United States? Do I need extra licenses? Do I need a certificate? Can I even, do I even speak English well enough to get a job, or do I need to go brush up on my English? So they try to figure out the middle without understanding the beginning or doing a really thorough assessment of what they have. Like, what are your skills? What experiences have you had? What does your resume look like? And then the end is like, what is the end goal? What do you want to do? Do you know where you want to work? Do you know the industry? Do you want to, um, like, what do you want to do? And when you figure out the beginning and the end, then the middle part really falls into place. And so the way I work with family or with parents when these questions come is like, okay, you have an assignment. For your first assignment is to do an inventory of everything that's happened in the past. Write down all of your education, all the certificates, all the license. Where did you go to school? What degrees do you have in what fields? Then write out all of your skills, your hard skills and your soft skills. Like hard skills, maybe, do you know code? Do you know how to build something? Do you do you type really fast? Are you a good writer? Like, what are the hard skills do you possess? And then the soft skills, are you a team player? Are you do you organize yourself really well? Do you speak well? Do you project? Do you, I don't know, do you enjoy public speaking? Those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And then experiences. What kind of jobs have you had? Have you had a volunteering? Do you, have you ever done something that you got really passionate about? Maybe it was a self project. Maybe it was something that you were involved in before that, you thought maybe, oh, it was just, I did it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Write everything down. That is your starting line. Then think about your end game. Where do you want to end up? What is your dream job? And I that's what I have people write out their dream job. And sometimes it's really hard to nail that down. Sometimes people are like, I don't even know, like, I don't even
It's
know
true.
about tomorrow. I don't know what I want to do for the next 15, 20 years. So then I say, okay, what kind of environment do you want to be in? Do you want
Mm.
to be around people? Do you want to work on the computer? Do you want to go in the office? Do you want to work from home? What kind of work-life balance? Are you a workaholic and you need the stress and you need the excitement to keep you going? Or do you have to take care of a family and do you have little kids? And that's just not the type of environment that you need right now. So from that, you can figure out the type of jobs that fit in. Then you start looking at those jobs and you start looking at the qualifications, and then you compare what you have to what is needed. And that's when you figure out the middle part. So if your end game, your end job or whatever the field is requiring you to have a license, Then you go and figure out how to get this license. Is it a master's degree? Then you figure out, okay, I have a bachelor's already, so that means I have a master's. If they need a master's, but you haven't completed your bachelor's, then you first need to complete your bachelor's, and then you need to go into a. So you figure out the middle at the end. And I think that is the biggest mistake, is that people take this and they want to make certain decisions right in the middle before even knowing where they're starting and where they're trying to end up.
Is it possible to do such assessment on your own, or it's better to call, I don't know, career coach or approach you? Like, who's helping to figure out what next?
I think so. I think people can, really sit down, especially the starting point. That can, I think, be figured out on your own, because that is essentially that's your resume, only in much more detail, expanded, and nobody knows what you've done except for you. So you can have a coach to guide you and ask you questions, but really, if you think and you sit down and you say, I have skills, I have education, I have experiences. These are the three big buckets, and try to fill those buckets, as much as possible, to really see, and then see where there are gaps. So maybe the language is your gap. Maybe you're lacking hard, so you want to be in tech, but you don't know how to code. Maybe that's the hard skill that you're going to need to get. Maybe you want to work in real estate. Today I was talking to somebody and they're like, I'm thinking about doing, going for my second bachelor's degree and da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, that's really exciting, because they finished the bachelor's degree abroad. So they're looking to get, to go back to education. And I'm like, okay, but like, what do you want to do? Like, oh, I really want to be in real estate. I want to be a real estate agent. I'm like, well, you don't need a second bachelor's degree in order to be in real estate. And she said, oh, I thought I need like a business degree. Like, no, all you need is a real estate license. You can study, you can literally buy a book, study at home, go take an exam, and get a license. That could be a couple of months work. Like, that is not a bachelor's degree type of situation. And so you need to understand, right, like what you want to do before you figure out what you're doing. And she was, so our initial consultation was about her getting a bachelor's degree and how to, and then through talking, we figured out she doesn't even need this bachelor's degree, because that's not, she's, she already has one, and she doesn't need that for what it is that she wanted to do. And I'll tell you a personal story. When I met my husband, we were in our mid-20s in the U.S. He's also from abroad, and he didn't finish his education back home. He left after he studied in the university for 3 years, came to the U.S., and then never went back to finish. And that was in his teens, early 20s. So we met years later, and he always talked about, I want to finish my education. I want to finish my education. And when we got married, I was working at a university, so my spouse could have, got an education for free. So we thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity for him to finally finish. But when we started digging and figuring out what it would take for him to finish his bachelor's degree in the US, we realized that instead of just finishing 1 year, he would have had to do 3 years in the US, because not a lot of credits would transfer. It's been too long. He would have lost some stuff. So, he actually ended up going back. He's from Lithuania. So he ended up going back to Lithuania for, a year back and forth, finished his bachelor's, and came back here to get a graduate certificate in the US.
Wow.
So this whole system is, you really need to understand the nuances and what you want before you get yourself in the middle of something, So, yeah, that's a really long answer to your question.
No, but it's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing this experience and your personal story. And we have one question from the audience already. How can I find out What are the free educational opportunities available for newly relocated to the US, especially locally?
It's a good question. So a lot of the education and money really revolves around immigration status.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing to mention before I start giving you advice, right? Because there are, are there free educational opportunities? Yes, of course. Are there also very, cheap opportunities? Are there? Yes. A lot of them are, though, for US citizens and green card holders. So if you are a new immigrant, it depends. Did you immigrate with a green card? Then you have a lot more opportunities than somebody's on a visa. And also, important fact, I worked in an international student office in a large university in Boston. And so I'm very familiar with like the F1 visas and this whole process. Is that you cannot study and towards to pursue a degree without a student visa. So if you are on any kind of other visa, a spousal visa or something like that, you're going to have to speak with an attorney to figure out, like, are you actually even able to get education? But in terms of free educational opportunities, I mean, depends what you're looking for. If you just want to learn, then you just open Coursera, or you open, any of these. Yale actually has a huge library of amazing, really amazing courses that they're giving, they're giving away for free. A lot of large institutions also do this. You can join classes virtually. So if your idea is just to learn for the sake of learning because you want to study, that there's plenty of opportunities. If you're trying to get like an education with a certificate or with a diploma, that becomes a lot more difficult. And probably the least expensive path, if you were not talking about financial aid, because again, I don't, if you're not a citizen or a permanent resident, you wouldn't be qualified for to get financial aid. But if you are, the least expensive path is, of course, the community college path. But you also got to realize what kind of education you're getting there. You're either getting an associate's degree, which can then be rolled over into a bachelor's degree at a 4-year institution, or you're getting a certificate. Certificate is a good kind of stamp of approval for a job that would say you already have a bachelor's degree in a foreign country, and you've immigrated here, and you just want something on your resume to show that, listen, I went to school here, even if it's for like a year or maybe a couple of semesters. I have a certificate, which means, automatically you probably speak English, or you're fluent enough to get education here in the US. You understand the concepts and the cultural nuances of living in America. So you're not completely like green and fresh. So in that case, community college or getting a certificate is great. If you're talking about, more of like a diploma or bachelor's degree or master's degree or a PhD, then again, the question becomes, what is your status? I personally think that a person with a green card or who is a person that's a US citizen should never pay for a master's degree. There are so many employers who will pay, who in the benefits package, you can outline that they will be paying for your education. I mean, it's very, so I'm in Boston, and there's so many institutions around here, and that's a very common thing that employers in the Boston area put in their benefits packages, that they'll pay for a class or 2 classes or a certain number of credits per year. And if your employer doesn't do that, then you need to find another employer that does, because there are plenty of companies that will pay for your master's degree who are because it's in their best interest to have employees who are, well versed and educated in the field that they're working in. And if you can't find an employer, then go work for a university. That is in majority of the cases, if you work at a university, you can also study there for free. In fact,
Wow.
That's what I did. I got my MBA. I was working at a university. I got my MBA because, I felt like that's what I needed in order to move forward in the career. And then I got my second master's because it was free. Like my MBA was free, but then I was still employed and I didn't. I was like, why not get a second master's? So then I got a second master's degree because, again, it was free. And while I was there at the university, I had many friends that would like come work for 2-3 years, get their master's and leave. That's totally what people can do. And again, bachelor's is a little more difficult to get for free unless you're on an athletic scholarship or some kind of grant. But a master's degree, if you have the immigration side of it down, you can definitely get that for free.
Wow, now we have so many questions. Because when I moved to the US 4 years ago, I had exactly the same question like most immigrants, internationals have. Like, should I go to get my master's? Meanwhile, I'm waiting for the green card, or like if I will be more competitive on the market, if I will have a local US master's. And then I started to discover more and more and more, and I understand, okay, I can go to work, and then my employer, he will pay for my master's. So do you think, is it worse to start from the master's and then look for a job, or it's better to look for a job first and then go towards the master's?
You're asking me that same question where you're trying to figure out the middle. I don't know your beginning and I don't know your end. So if you already have a bachelor's degree and you want you need sometimes you don't even need a master's. Who said you need a master's? But if you do, if you've did the assessment, you've figured out that you need a master's degree and you know which field you're trying to get in, then you need to look at those jobs and you need to figure out, is a master's degree a requirement for the type of jobs that you're looking for? And if it is, then of course you need to start with education. But if it isn't,
that's a good point.
Or you can start lower on the ladder. You start as an admin somewhere or an assistant, and this is the job that will pay or at least sponsor some of your education. Then you work there, get your master's, and then you get promoted. And again, like that's what a lot of people do. But you need to start with figuring out where is that gap that you're trying to fill, right?
Yeah. So it's like a common discussion in all forums between like women, like, should I go towards my master's or should I go for a work? Because we have this myth that if I have a master's, I'm more attractive for the local employers. So when I'm looking for job descriptions, I don't see any mention that you have to have a master's. All the requirements is about bachelor degree or relevant experience. So that's very important to know that you don't have to go straight away. Yeah.
You don't, and I would argue that at a certain point in life, and I don't know how old you are, and I don't know how old the people that are watching us are, but at a certain point in life, education becomes less important and your experience becomes more important. I was talking to a woman a couple of weeks ago, and she came to the US like 10 years or 15, like 10 years ago. She had kids right away, so she's been a stay-at-home mom, and she was taking classes all over the place. She took classes at a community college. She took online classes. She did this and that and she couldn't find her path. And so she's talking to me and she's like, I really don't I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's next step for me. And I said, listen, it really sounds to me that you just enjoy learning. And she's like, yeah, the thing that I love the most is not even like what I'm learning, but just the process of learning, being on campus, going to school, and da, 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 da. And so I was like, well, it seems to me like you need to work at a university, because
Oh,
if that is the environment that you thrive in, and you've been taking classes just because you love the process of learning, not necessarily because you took like biology classes and then computer class and just like all over the place. And so, and then I was like, and then you can go to school for free, and then you can figure out what to do within the kind of the realm of the university. And so then she said, but I am in my late 30s. Like, why would somebody hire me for like an entry level job versus somebody that's just got out of college and somebody that's like young and fresh? And I think this is where women, especially, are really underselling themselves, is you need to think about what you bring to the table in terms of soft skills, in terms of, how trustworthy you are, how responsible you are, how somebody in their late 30s, it's safe to assume that they already have had life experience. Like, she's a mom. She has kids that she raised. She's mature. She is, again, probably trustworthy, responsible. She's going to show up on time. She's going to work really hard to do her job. And can you make the same assumptions with somebody that's 21 or 22? Maybe or maybe not. It's a safer bet to say that an older person and has these qualities that are going to be super attractive, especially soft skills, being able to communicate, being caring team player, being somebody that understands the value of different opinions in the room. Again, it's an assumption, but a lot of hirings happen around people assuming certain things about you, right? I mean, you can't really get to know a person in a 30-minute interview, yet some people get hired and some people don't get hired. So I do think that at some point, experience, and just not even work experience, just life experience, can play to your advantage in the job search. So people should not, undersell themselves because they think that they have nothing to offer. You have, 30 plus years of life to offer, 40 plus years of life. And yes, you may be new to this country, but you're not new to life. And that matters. That really matters.
wow, what a story. Now I want to work at the university, preferably at Stanford.
Yeah.
So we have more questions from the audience. Let me ask you, how important are certificates that you took certain courses in looking for a job later on?
I think certificates are great for personal growth, personal and professional growth. I think they're an added layer of like trust, that the person that you're going into this job already knowing something about the field, so the employer doesn't think like, oh, this person just woke up yesterday, saw our job posting, and decided that being in finance would be a great idea. That they've actually taken steps for they've gotten a certificate in markets, or like financial markets, or in institutions, and they've done that because they're really interested in this field. Mm-hmm. So I do think that it's important. I also think that certificates to an immigrant, especially, first of all, they're usually fast. It's usually just a few semesters. They're inexpensive. They could be inexpensive depending on where you do it, but they could be relatively inexpensive. Definitely not the same price tag as like a master's degree. And it's an American, right? It's an American education that you could show on your resume, that somebody's, it's funny. The reason why my husband actually ended up getting a graduate certificate is because he was going on interviews, and he's in finance. So, and they would be like, wait, what is this college? How do you pronounce the city? What, Lithuania? Like, so he wanted something American on his, and Northeastern University is a brand name that in the Boston area is well known. So if not for nothing, he just wanted like a stamp of approval. Like, hey, I went to school in America. It was Northeastern University. You guys all know it. Education is excellent. And I got education from there, even though it was, just a few semesters. So it could be valuable as like a stamp of approval type of thing.
Yeah, I especially like some Ivy College certificate programs. They are relatively unexpensive, like kind of affordable for the US standards compared to master's degree. So I see a lot of people put these certificates in the section of the education on LinkedIn. So it's really shine bright in their resume later. So I think it's a good point to add some brands in your resume. So let's move to other questions. I know many people go to college to expand their network and start doing something after a career change. What is a good strategy for looking for a course under these circumstances?
So if, I think it's a really good point that education is sometimes not even about education. A lot of times it's about networking and getting to know your community and getting to know your professors, who are usually very well connected in the industries that they're teaching in. So, what they say about master's degrees specifically is that the people who are in your cohort, and usually, you tend to take the same, you kind of move along the same path. If you're in an MBA, you have the same people in multiple classes. Those are the people that later on in life, or maybe right after you graduate from your degree, are going to be either your coworkers or your managers. So it is really important to establish that network, to get to know your professors really well. And I think a lot of students are timid, especially international students, because in a lot of countries, a professor is on a pedestal and you're the student. So you're expected to kind of sit quietly and just listen to the lecture. But, I was a faculty at a university for multiple years, and I've had students. I had 18-year-olds sitting in my classes, and I had 65-year-olds and 70-year-olds sitting in my classes who were finishing their degrees from a long time ago. And my job was to teach and get them excited about the subject. I was teaching business and communications, in fact. So I didn't care if this was a 70-year-old or an 18-year-old. I just wanted to make sure that they're getting the knowledge and we're connecting in like a real human way. Not that I'm a professor and you're a student, but, let's connect. How can I help you move you along, whether it's your career path or just your life? Like, how can I help you? And I find that, I have a lot of colleagues in the field who are also professors or work in admissions or work in financial aid, just kind of like, around education. And everyone says always the same thing, is that we're in education because we love people and we love to help them. And so networking with your professors, networking with your fellow students is really, really important. A good strategy to look for courses is find something that you're passionate. So, find something you're passionate about, and that's and then you're gonna be in the classroom with people who are passionate about the same thing. And then it's gonna be easier to connect. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add from my perspective, from my personal experience. When I wanted to start a company here in the US, I was looking for the communities, for any courses, classes, where I can learn more about entrepreneurship here in the US. And I decided to take a short class at Stanford. It was continuous studies, like 3 weeks, no, 3 months class. And I was passionate about social entrepreneurship. And my professor, my teacher, he also had several nonprofits, and we was connecting. We click, and he became my mentor later. So it's really important to find what you're passionate about, and your classmates, they will be also doing something what you're doing later. And I have a friend, she's building her startup, I'm building my startup. We sharing knowledges, we are discussing all the time. So I think it's a good strategy to find your passion and your field of interest.
Yeah,
Very
for sure.
important. Well, we have several questions from the audience who ask in advance, and maybe you can share with us what jobs and industries that 100% required traditional education, such as US university degree or its equivalent. Are there any jobs?
I think it's going to be easier for me to say what jobs do not require traditional education because, um, again, coming from other countries, a lot of things are done just kind of off the cuff in overseas. I mean, I know this because I am also an immigrant, right? So people just do things and, make up their diplomas. And so in the US, it's a little bit more rigid. Most jobs will require a diploma of some sort, whether it's a bachelor's or a master's. Um, don't be surprised that if an employer asks for a verification of your diploma, which means that either they will contact the university that you've put on your resume, or they will ask you to provide a certificate, like a diploma certificate, saying something from the university that says that you've completed it. And usually the way that's done is you don't actually get a chance to like have it or hold it. You would contact the registrar's office at the university, provide them the information of the future employer, and they will send it directly to them, so it actually never goes through you. So back to your question, I think currently, and this may change, I mean, right, I mean, everything, the employment market changes, the education things change, but right now there's two fields that I could say that probably will not require a formal education because they're more they're more focused on skills rather than an education. So first is tech. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of these startups, a lot of the tech companies, they hire for skill. They don't care where you went to school. Maybe you're self-taught. Maybe you learned everything from watching YouTube videos. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But if you can code or if you can do certain things, that's what matters. And those interviews are very technical. Like they'll give you a problem to solve and they're going to watch you solve it in real time. And you can either do it or not. And if you can't do it, then you're out. And again, it doesn't
So
matter
true.
where you learned how to do it. It's the fact that you can do it. So that's one. The other one is probably entrepreneurship. So, I mean, I have friends who have started their own companies without formal education, and I've had students when I was working at a university who quit to become, to run their companies, to do and I worked at a university that was very like the big focus was entrepreneurship. So we've had students that would work on their project, work on their business, and then by like third year when it started to blow up, I'll say, you know what, I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna quit, or I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna get back to my education later down the line when I have the time. And they go off and they do their own thing, and sometimes they never come back to it.
Yeah.
Because as a business owner, I mean, you're your own boss. That's the best thing about entrepreneurship, right? So no one's going to tell you like, ooh, where did you go to school? Show me that verification. Everything else, like everything you're thinking, like medicine, law, finance, accounting, like most business specters, marketing, education, pharmaceuticals, everything will require formal education. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I think you can share a very funny story about my husband because he's in tech. And when he's talking to his colleague, they are so impressed by his knowledge, by his hard skills, and they are asking, "Wow, where did you get your master's?" Because they assume that he get masters from the US, and he's like, "No, I learn everything by myself, like YouTube, Coursera." So for tech people, it's more relevant to have hard skills, what you can do,
Yeah.
what kind of problems you can solve. Wow. I also have a question, like for my personal question. When I just moved here to the US, I was very confused with different names of the schools, like Ivy League, private schools like Stanford, UC Berkeley, UCLA, colleges, adult schools. So what's the difference between all these schools? How to understand that?
Yeah, good question. So let's start with categories of schools. We have community colleges. So community colleges are 2-year schools. They take anyone who applies. The cost is usually relatively inexpensive. You can get a certificate, or you can just take random classes. You can take, English proficiency classes. You can get an associate's degree. Associate's degree is a 2-year degree. It's not a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, then, if you want to go on and continue after an associate's degree, you will transfer those credits to a 4-year institution. Now, 4-year institutions, you can have a state school, that's a public school. You can have a private school. So let's start with that. So what's the difference between public and private? For the most part, the difference is money. And on the most basic level, state school is funded by the state, the federal government. The taxes that you pay goes partially, some of it goes to fund the state colleges and universities. And private schools are funded through private sources and donor money and investments that the colleges make. Of course, there's federal financial aid that helps the students, but the operation of running the university is a business that people invest in. And whether that's investment through donorship or investment through, they take those funds and invest it somewhere and they kind of get the money returns, that's how it's run. Public and so state schools, public schools, and private schools, the quality of the education could be on par. So you can have, like, the UC system is probably by far the best state school system there is in the US. Very highly selective, very hard to get into. The quality of education is superb. And then you have private schools that, could be just as good or worse or better, so you can't really compare the quality, whether it's a private or public. Yeah. Now, the cost for the consumer is different. If you are your state resident and you're going to your state school, you pay a certain price. If you are out of state student going to a state school, you pay a completely different price. So I'm in Massachusetts. Yeah, UMass, University of Massachusetts, our state flagship school costs about $15,000, $30,000 if you're living on campus, but say you're an adult and you're just taking classes, it's going to be $15,000 a year. If you are an out-of-state resident, you are paying $40,000 to $50,000 a year for that same education. Same with the UC system, same with Texas, Florida, wherever you are. If you're a state resident, because you've been paying taxes in that state, you're getting a break on the tuition. Now, private schools are the same rate no matter who is attending. In state, out of state, they have the same price tag, which is usually a lot higher than public schools. Then you have a university, you have a college, you have a liberal arts college. And that is also kind of differs. Let's talk about college and university. What is the difference? And a lot of international families are confused because they think, college is kind of like lower tier, university is more privileged and kind of better.
That's what I think.
In a lot of countries, that's what it is that kind of like if you are just trying to get by, get some education, you go to college. But then if you're, really smart and if you really want a good diploma, you go to university. Well, in the US, that's not the case. So college and university, again, the quality of education is the same. The only difference really in the US is the structure. So if you think about college as a house, right? So imagine a house, you have all the different rooms and every room represents maybe a different major. So you have a psychology major, math major, and computer science and engineering, And then you have a roof, you have the dean, and then you have the provost and the president, and they're all kind of under one roof. And this is all nice, neat house. And you are, say, a math major and you want to take a music class. All you need to do is you need to go to your advisor and you say, hey, I'm really interested in taking this music class. Can I do that? Sure. You guys are all in one house. Just cross the hallway and you're in another room. Take the music class over there. Great. Very easy kind of to maneuver, really easy to figure out. They're also colleges are usually smaller in size. So we're talking, 5,000, maybe 7,000 people, undergraduates or less. Universities are usually much larger. So then university is like a compound. So you have a bunch of different houses like that, kind of like different colleges, and they're all under one umbrella of the university. And so if you are an engineering major, your major is housed in the house of engineering, so College of Engineering. And you could have College of Arts and Sciences, College of Engineering, College of Computer Science, College of, like theater arts and music or something like that. And if you're a math major in the College of Sciences and you want to take a music class, you're literally taking a class in a different college. So the process is very different. You don't just go to your advisor. They have to submit a bunch of paperwork and you have to go to another house to take that class. So I think university setting works really well for students who are vocal and they're not shy and they can advocate for themselves and, they're go-getters because there's so many opportunities at a university, so many opportunities. But for some of those shy kids who want like the special attention and the hand holding and making sure everything is easy. I just want an easy, I just want an easy life, easy process. A college usually works better. And then one last one is a liberal arts college. That is a totally different beast. So liberal arts colleges are usually very small. So they're like 3,000 students or less, maybe even 2,000 students or less. The whole premise of a liberal arts college is a holistic education. So they educate the whole person versus educate them towards a specific major. You usually apply without a major. So if you're, a student and you're like going for a bachelor's degree, you're applying without a major. They will give you a bunch of different classes to take. And only in the second or in the third year will you pick your concentration or your major, which is very different in a college or standard college or university. You're going into a specific degree, right away, and you start taking classes in that major right away. And the kind of further along you go, the more pointed the classes are towards really teaching you to your major. So if you're in engineering, you're going to start taking classes in engineering right away. And it's by the fourth year, you're like only taking engineering classes. In liberal arts colleges, you'll be taking philosophy and history and art and music and all these different classes to kind of get you to understand the world. And then the idea is from that, you're going to find yourself and you're going to find your education. And, and I've had students, adult students and young students who can say like, I don't want all of these other, like, I just want to learn what I want to learn. And then I have other students that are like, I don't know what I want to learn. I actually want to learn everything. So maybe in a couple of years, this method will help me figure it out. So that is kind of the major difference. And it's not for everyone. It's kind of, you're either a liberal arts type of person or you're the kind of the standard education type of person. But you could get an amazing STEM degree. You could get an amazing engineering or computer science degree in a liberal arts college while also taking all of these really cool classes along the way and not just, math and computer science and engineering. So
wow. So what about
I know
Ivy
this was
League?
again very long. So
But it's so helpful. Now we finally understand what does it mean.
So the Ivy League schools is just the selected, I believe there's 8 of them. They're the usually, the oldest universities, colleges in the US that have been around for the longest and have a certain level of prestige. And I am that consultant that will tell you that every time a person tells me, but this is a prestigious school, or, this is a great, they do
My
really
dream school.
yeah, this is my dream school. This is it's going to look amazing on my resume. I'm the one to roll my eyes because I really think that a person needs to find the best fit for them versus to find the best name that's out there. Because at the end of the day, on your resume is what you do at that school that's going to matter and not the name of the school. I've had students from Harvard that graduated and that were applying for a master's degree, and they would bring me their naked resume. And I would say, you went to Harvard for 4 years. What did you do there? I went to class. What else? I did homework. What else? I played video games in my room. So no research, no internships, no job, no good connections with professors. You wasted 4 years at Harvard. That it's going to mean nothing because you have nothing to show for it. And then I've had students from like UMass who did all of the research, the internships, the jobs, the really cool experiences inside and outside the classrooms, made, networked their butts off and got really great recommendations from their professors. And it was so easy for them because we have this robust resume and a cool application, and they have a lot to write about on their essay to get into the master's program. And I mean, who do you think is going to get in? Like, who is it? Just the kid that says I went to Harvard and showed nothing, or this kid that worked and did everything and took every advantage of every opportunity? He is the go-getter, or she is the go-getter. She is the leader. She is the one that's going to make an impact in the world. She or he is going to get in. So, Ivies, near Ivies, if this is a good fit for you, great. But a lot of the times, I think people just fall for the name and they don't realize that maybe this is not even going to be a place that you're going to love. One last story. I know we're almost out of time. had a student um, last year, and she came to me. She was young, she's in high school, and we were talking about her college list, and she said, number one, MIT, my dream school, end all and be all. This is the only place I want to be, MIT. I'm like, okay. And she's like very bubbly, very social, very like social butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm in Boston. I know MIT very well. I've been on campus many times. I know the type of students that I've sent there. I know the type of students that go there and graduated from there. And said, listen, have you ever been on campus? You live, not far. No, I've never been on campus, but I know I love the school. Okay, well, your homework for next weekend is you need to go and you need to spend the day on MIT campus. Walk around, go to the cafeteria, go to the library, try to, talk, have some conversations with students, see the campus for yourself. The next time that we met, she said, Anya, no MIT. I can't. And she's like, everybody is just, she's like, I couldn't connect to people. Everyone's so introverted. Everybody was reading books. They're all kind of like in on themselves. And, the couple of people that talked to me, I felt like, it was, I wasn't connecting. It wasn't the vibe that I was looking for. Like, exactly. And I knew this from her personality because I also knew the kind of kids I sent there. The very, kind of, focused, very serious, very like brainy, like they love to read and this is what they thrive on, and like research and really, and I know the personality of the kid, and that was not her personality. So I knew it wasn't going to be a good fit, but sometimes students need to learn it on their own before they can. But so many people, adults and teenagers, they fall for the brand name. And I mean, we live in the brand name culture, so I guess you can't really blame them. But I will always say that I would much rather you go to an unknown school and take every advantage of everything the school has to offer and graduate from there being fulfilled and happy than go to a brand name school where you don't fit in, where you can't connect, where maybe you're too far from home or too close to home, or campus is too big or too small. Yeah.
That's a very, really great piece of advice. Just to go there and see with your own eyes, just to feel it, just to smell it,
Mm-hmm.
and understand if you're fit or not. Are there any ways, are there any other ways how to understand which school will fit you and which school is better? Just skip. Like how to do this research for yourself and pick
Don't
a.
look at the rankings. Forget US News and
Hmm.
World Report. Take, close your eyes and imagine your dream school and like what it would look like. Do you want small classes? Do you, because you like the attention, or do you like huge lecture halls because you kind of want to just go in, take, listen to the lecture, take your notes and go home? Like, what kind of personality are you? Do you love strong connections with classmates and professors, or do you just want to be a fly on the wall? And there's nothing wrong with either one approach. It's just very different. So from that, you figure out the size. Do you want small school, medium school, large school? Do you want a school in the city where there's, hustle and bustle and everything goes around? Or do you want something more remote? Are you gonna, if you're an adult, like you're obviously gonna live at home, so what kind of programs are offered? So it's not about like where you're gonna live, but what kind of programs are offered in the proximity of your location? How much time do you want to commute? Do you want to be stuck in the car going to this Ivy League school for 2.5 hours each day because you're in traffic and you're in the middle of the city? Or can you take, a 20-minute subway ride somewhere and it's going to be really easy to get there? So think about like life and your expectations and a work life balance and how you want to approach this. Look at the programs rather than the school itself. um, are they offering the type of classes that you love, or that you're interested in? So you could do an MBA at 5 different schools, and the type of classes they're going to be offering are all going to be different. So you need to look at their curriculum. You really need to study and figure out what fits you, what fits your personality, and of course, like, what are the outcomes? What graduates is this place producing? Where are they getting jobs, and how much money are they making? Because, at the end of this whole thing, you hopefully are doing this so that you can move forward in your career, make more money, live a better life, and and so on. So don't look at the input, look at the output. What are they producing? Who are they graduating? And what are these people doing? Where are they working? And how? And I think for adults, especially, how strong their career department is. Are you going to get support on campus with the future jobs and interviews and resume and so on?
I have a question regarding the online degrees, because we was talking about traditional education when you're actually going to the school.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any information about the online degrees, like hybrid?
Yeah, I think, online degrees are very convenient. The best part about online degrees is that nobody is going to know that you got it online. So if you're an adult and you are doing a degree, I mean, I'm doing my PhD or my doctorate degree online. No one knows, like, it's very convenient. I have I have 3 little kids. So that's the only way I can do it. And yeah, it's easy. I have only, if this is a model of education that you can thrive in, because not a lot of, it's not everyone can do well online. Some people need the classroom experience. And if you're not really looking for the networking aspect of education, then I think online degree is great. It's convenient. A lot of times it's less expensive than in person. It's you can, right now I'm in Boston. I'm taking classes in UC Irvine. Like, it's right, exactly. So it opens up the opportunities that much more. So you're not like, confined to the location and the commute and everything like that. But, I got my master's degrees in person because I was in my 20s and I didn't have a family or kids, and I had plenty of time, and I needed the network. I needed it to move forward. And I love that aspect. But if that's, again, starting with the end goal, right? Like, what are you looking for? If that's not what you're looking for, then online degree is perfectly fine. It's not going to say on your diploma that you got it online. So what does it matter?
I have one more question from the audience. When is MBA a good alternative to traditional degrees?
What do you mean by traditional degrees? So MBA is a Master's of Business Administration. There's many masters. You could get a master's in engineering, master's in psychology, master's in English. I guess I don't really understand the question.
Okay,
it's not an alternative. It's a master's in business. So if you're thinking of going into business, an MBA is the path that you should take. If you're going for computer science or engineering or English or history, then you're getting a master's in something else.
Yeah, I think I also get this question like you. And I have the last question from me. I know that you work in education more than 15 years. So what are the insights you get from this experience? Maybe you can share like the last piece of advice.
Yeah, I as I said, like, I live and breathe education and all my life. So I do really think that it's important and it's worth it. I know it's expensive. I know it's time consuming, and it's a lot of stress, but I think people should never stop learning. And as long as you live, you learn something. And, maybe it's not traditional education, but maybe it's something that you continue learning through webinars or through live streams or through talking to, you know, experts in the field that you're interested in. You know, always continue learning. And the best thing that I've learned, you know, kind of what I've gathered about education, it's, again, it's not where you go to school. I don't know what happened. I think we got cut
So,
out for a
yeah,
second.
yeah.
It's
Sorry.
really what you do there. It's really what you do while you're studying. It's what you do with your education after, how you use it. That's the most important. And, you know, I think a lot of people come to me and ask me, like, is it really worth it? Do you really think that it's worth it? And I honestly think that it is worth it. It does. I know it's, again, I know it's very expensive, but it pays off. You can look at all these different studies that are, you know, how much people make with just a, you know, high school degree and college, a bachelor's degree, master's degree, and you can see the growth in how much money people make. So eventually it pays off. Yes.
Yeah. Very last question from the audience, just yes or no question. Wise people say that investing in children's education is the best investment. Do you agree with this? Like, very
Yes,
short answer.
I absolutely agree with this.
I know that it's impossible to fit in 1 hour conversation with you, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have more questions. So, is there any way to connect with you and get a private consultation and get more like
Yeah,
personalized advice?
of course. Let's see. This is my contact information that you see on the screen. So you can find me. The company name is College Starpoint, that I'm a founder and CEO. You can email me info@collegestarpoint.com. You can visit the website collegestarpoint.com. And I do have a promo code. So if you do want to schedule a 30-minute consultation, the promo code is CPI10. You get a 10% discount. I'd love to talk to you, whether it's you, an adult, or you, the child. I'm happy to talk, you know, about education. I am. If we have any parents watching now or maybe later in recording, I am currently enrolling a class of high school students, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors for the next academic year that's going to start in September. So if you want to discuss that, I'm happy to do that. And yeah, reach out with questions. I'm an open book. I'm happy to help. So whatever questions throw at me.
Well, thank you so much for your generous discount for our audience. And thank you again for joining us tonight, answering our questions. And we were so happy to have you here tonight. And for those who are watching us in recording later, thank you again for your time. And if you have any suggestions in terms of future topics or future guests, also let us know. Thank you so much once again, and see you later. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.